Welcome to Wedtalks. I'm so excited for this episode today. I have the Youngs here. They are a photo video team based in St. Louis, Missouri, and we are going to be chatting all things photo video. It's going to be awesome for our clients at Westwind Hills to watch this, and also pretty insightful for videographers and photographers who are kind of trying to jump into a different market too. Yep. So we'll just jump into it and tell me a little bit about yourselves.
Yeah, go ahead, Alex.
Who are you?
We are Alex and Veronica Young. As you said, we do photo and video, primarily specializing in weddings, but we do kind of everything. We have a YouTube channel, a podcast, and we do commercial work, all kinds of stuff. So, and we are married.
We are married. That should have been first.
Yeah, that should have been
detail.
first. Small detail.
How is that working together with your spouse on wedding days?
I love it. I wouldn't have it any other way.
Yeah, we worked obviously other jobs in the past that we weren't together all day, and we were told, you guys are crazy if you want to work together all day every day, and
Yeah.
I wouldn't have it another way either.
Yeah.
Like that's
Yeah, we don't have to really think about anything. We know what the next moves are, what the next steps are going to be without even having to talk to each other about it. So it makes the wedding day super fluid, easy. Yeah.
And like she'll occasionally second shoot like photo for somebody if we don't have a wedding, and I'll be at home like, what do I do with what am I supposed to do today?
Yeah.
I don't know what to do.
Yeah. We do honestly everything together. It's kind of gross. But.
Yeah. No, I mean, I get it more than anybody else.
Yeah.
I've worked with Robbie since we started dating. And I feel like I can't imagine it any other way. Some days he drives me freaking nuts, but
That's normal.
most days, I love him.
Sometimes we do that on purpose.
Yeah. And with this sort of industry too, something that you're away from friends and family on the weekend for, it's nice to be with your spouse and like share
For sure.
everyday things with your significant other. So.
Yeah.
Well,
he's also like my comfort zone. So like anything that I feel stressed about, like I can talk to him like very open and candidly.
Judgment.
Yeah, it makes things
some judgment, but not real judgment.
not real judgment. Yeah, but it makes things really easy.
Well, and it's nice from like my perspective to have like a guy with the guys and a girl with the girls.
Yes.
And it makes them a little bit more comfortable.
For sure.
Yeah.
Having Alex has definitely, I've noticed a difference because when we started, it was just me. And when Alex joined in and started to be more of the face of our company as well, our clients definitely like lightened up a little bit. Having a male presence just makes it more casual. Less pressure, especially for the guys.
Like, they have a hard time trusting that you're not making them do something extra cheesy or like that's kind of silly. So it's just, they trust you a little bit.
Yeah.
We kind of lean into it. Like if you feel like you're doing something awkward, it probably looks good because that's usually is the case.
Yeah.
But, like it's usually the guys most of the time that are hesitant and don't like being in the camera and they just want to have a good time. And it's just good to have another guy that just can help break that ice and
for sure.
make them forget that they're actually surrounded by 700 cameras.
Well, speaking of a team, so how do you guys think it benefits? Because you do both photo and video on a wedding day. So why is it beneficial to a client to book a team that can handle both things?
Well, first and foremost, all the back end of every wedding is done under one roof. So contracts, meetings, going over the timeline, I handle all of that. Alex jumps in from time to time when necessary, but because we do it all together, I know a lot of the video aspect of things, so I can kind of handle that portion as far as our meetings go. Everything is just super easy, like contractually, and payments are all under one roof, that sort of thing. And then when it comes to timeline, that's just another thing. Like we're doing everything within keeping in mind that we have to add in time for video. Some things take a little bit longer. And I know Alex's process already. I know the things that are going to take longer than other things. So I know when to schedule in like a little bit more extra time for things. Whereas if we're working with a videographer that we don't know, I don't necessarily know their process right off the bat. So I don't know how to add in that buffer time if necessary.
Yeah. Well, as a photographer, I know like I jive better with some video teams than others, and I feel like I tend to jive with people who are more go with the flow and don't like make the clients redo things 15 times.
I hate that.
Yes.
And it just feels so unnatural, and you don't want someone's wedding to feel like a photo shoot. You want it to feel just like normal, like you're there creating documentary style videos. So I can see how that would be super beneficial because you know her like a book and vice
Yeah.
versa. So
Yeah.
you kind of know the things that you're anticipating the next move so you can be ready with the camera.
Yes.
Especially like redoing those organic moments, because we've had weddings where we're just a photographer and we do the first look and then the videographer's like, hey, can we do that again?
Yeah.
Like,
How
what?
do you redo
Yeah.
a
What
first
is-
look?
Yeah.
It'll be the second look.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
sure, we're going to go do this then.
Totally.
Yeah.
But
Literally happened to me here.
Yeah.
wow,
So-
I don't
Oh, gosh.
understand that.
Yeah.
But another thing that we talk about too is the cohesiveness of the products.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's photo video teams out there that don't if you didn't see who did them.
Yeah, aesthetic wise, editing wise, color grading and that sort of thing. But also when I'm posing and directing, I am doing that with intention for video. So I know that if Alex needs something specific, he'll speak up. But more often than not, he really doesn't, because I just do it for both of us.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I think that is huge. I mean,
Yeah.
that would have been very nice on my wedding day for sure.
Yeah.
Did you have video on your wedding day?
I did,
We
yeah.
did not.
Yeah,
I
we
had
did
an
not.
amazing video. I think he was ahead of his time. He's now working at like a commercial company here in St. Louis, but he makes like short films and
That's
he's,
awesome.
He's really cool. I'll have to show you guys. one
Yeah.
day.
Yeah.
I mean, it might be a little dated now. I don't know,
Oh, that's
but it's still pretty great.
As long as you
so.
love it, that's all that
Yeah,
matters.
we love it.
Yeah.
And that transitions into this next question for you. I cannot imagine not having a video. I mean, there are so many reasons I can get into that I think it's so important for a client to have a video. What do you say to somebody, though, who doesn't necessarily have the budget for video right up front?
I mean, I can start this, but I think you should finish this because we have a very personal story about this.
Yeah.
She mostly.
Yeah.
But for people that are like, I don't really have the budget to hire you, we're like, hire somebody. Because photos, yes, they're one of the only things that you have left after the wedding's over. But video does that in a way that is unlike anything else. And you can actually watch grandma get on the dance floor and dance. You can actually listen to your dad give a welcome speech or watch your first look again and see it in real time and hear everybody talking. And I feel like that's one of the biggest things is you can hear people talking.
Yeah.
I think that if someone doesn't necessarily have the budget for video, I would say take a look at the things that you could maybe not have and tack away some of those things to make sure that you can have some sort of video. So maybe just allocating budget to maybe not have the biggest floral installation or, whatever the case might be, because video is just so much more valuable, I think. And especially for like years to come and down the road. And, when you're having kids and grandkids and, all of that stuff, it's a generational thing.
Oh, I have a funny story about that. So
Yeah?
in our video, my dad gave a toast, and at the very end, he closed it and raised his glass, and he said, and here's to a few Muckler grandbabies.
Yeah.
So now every year on our anniversary, we watch that video with the girls. And first they get mad because they don't understand why they weren't there.
Yeah.
So that's pretty darn cute.
Yeah.
But just to like see that and hear that, and
Exactly.
I know, one day, 30 years from now or whatever, when my dad isn't around, I'm going to be really thankful to have that and
Exactly.
have his voice. Because even when my grandma passed away a few years ago, who I was very close with, I look back and I try to find iPhone videos of her, and I'm like, man, I didn't really take that many videos. I don't have her voice. So I cherish her voicemails, but to have that on such a special day like your wedding, I just think it's really cool to
It's a
have.
necessity, honestly. I
Yeah.
think it should be right there with
And
photos.
that's exactly why we feel so passionately about it, is because we did not. Well, first off, we didn't hire a professional
We did a whole
photographer.
podcast episode on what we did wrong on our
Yeah,
wedding day.
we didn't hire a professional photographer for our wedding, and we didn't have any video, which is kind of bizarre because Alex was in video production at the time, but we just didn't really think about it, and we weren't in this industry, so we didn't know what we were doing.
When did you guys get married? What year?
2014.
Same.
Yeah.
So yeah, it also wasn't the same as it is
No,
now.
totally
all.
different. Totally
It was
different.
like
but-
Pinterest vibes, mason
Yeah.
jars, burlap,
Yeah,
like
exactly.
DIY.
Oh,
yeah.
And then 3 years after we got married, my dad passed away unexpectedly. So,
And he wasn't a camera person.
Yeah,
So there's
and-
almost no photos
Yeah,
videos
I
of
mean,
him?
we have like photos of him walking me down the aisle and I dance with him, but we don't have any video, and it sucks.
Yeah, it breaks
Yeah.
your heart a little bit. But hey, hopefully people see this and use
Yeah.
that. I mean, I don't know what else you could need to hear.
No, I mean,
Yeah.
that's what we tell any client that we have a conversation with about. And at first it's like, is this icky? But it's really not, because it's real. And it is your wedding and it is a happy moment, but you have to keep in mind that that's part of life.
Yeah.
And not
Yeah.
everybody that's at your wedding is going to be around for longer.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the wedding day, you know, our job is to help create the beginning of your legacy. And so it's not just that day. It helps you remember things for years to come.
Totally.
So
yeah. And I always tell people, and this might not be the same advice that you would give, but I always tell people as a photographer to not skimp on photo and not hire a shitty photographer. I'm not trying to be mean, but
Yeah.
No,
I'm
you're
like,
right.
if you can't afford both, like first put all your apples into photography and then like see if there are things you can move around. And
Yeah.
also you may be able to find a videographer like 3 months in advance. Like I'm not saying that it's great to do that,
Right.
but try to make room for it later. Like
Yeah.
maybe right now it's not on the radar, but get some things solidified because the beginning is so overwhelming with all the decisions, and then come back to it and
Yeah.
revisit it.
Yeah.
But
Which
yeah.
that actually helps with the team aspect. Is it's easier. Like, you just kind of pitched that one up. It's
Yeah.
an easier decision because it's only one company and we're
Yeah.
doing both. And I mean, we have prided ourselves on the ability to do both well and cohesively. There are others that there's videographers at every level. So
Yeah.
obviously budget's going to play a lot of role in that. But
And I think that that's rare. You know, I think
Yeah.
to find a company that does both well, and I'm just going to say it, I think it's rare.
Yeah.
And I think you guys do that great. And that is something that's super unique about you. But yeah, I think a lot of people, that's something to look out for.
yeah,
With the
one
photo
of them's
video team.
lacking.
Yes. So that could be the con to it, but not with them.
and we say that to like couples that will come to us for mentorships that want to do both. And that's one of the very first things we say is you're only as good as your weakest link as far as photo and video goes. So if you want to do both, get better at the other thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally. No. And I think that that's also a good segue to what we're going to talk about next is kind of the difference between ranges of videographers. And I want to focus on video specifically.
Yeah.
Just because there is such a huge range. Like here in St. Louis, you can hire somebody who, well, I don't even know now in
I think like
2023.
$1,500.
$1,500. Yeah, let's just use that. And then, you know, we've had somebody in the venue that we know was $20,000 from California. How do you explain to a client who isn't versed in videography, like how do you explain to them what the difference is between a $1,500 videographer and a $20,000 videographer?
Before we get to that part, I think it's important to talk, especially because clients will listen to this, so it's a really good audience to say this, but we talk all the time that, to be honest, the grassroots of it, video should cost more if you look at the cost of doing business, because there's a photographer can come in with 1-2 cameras, 4 or 5 lenses, and some flashes. That's it. Video, you add tripods, you add audio gear, you add more lighting gear, you had more cameras, you had gimbals, you had a drone. There's so much more cost involved.
Editing time.
Editing time is far more. Processing power. Memory cards. Her memory cards cost $20. My memory cards for the same size are $200.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's insane.
So it's the cost up front on our end is far more to do video. So if we talk about nothing else with pricing, that alone should
yeah.
help push the industry
I
to
think
video.
I think after that, the first thing would be to look at like how seasoned is that vendor? Have they been doing it for a year, or have they been doing it for over a decade, like Alex? So that's something that the client should be educating themselves on, is like how much have they been in this career? How many weddings have they shot? That sort of thing. And then the other thing I think is, what does the client experience look like? And I think that's a very broad topic. You know, everybody has a different client experience, but is it more of a hands-off experience, or is it like super hands-on, lots of meetings, lots of FaceTime with the client gifts, like just how you make the client feel throughout the whole process?
And just knowing who you're getting on your wedding day. Because you can
Exactly.
hire I'm not going to mention names.
We'll call them volume video companies.
Volume video companies. Yeah,
Yeah.
like you hire one of these companies, and that's great. They're $2,000, and you could get, you know, a kid out of college. This is their first job, which everybody has to. We've been there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
You gotta start somewhere.
But you know, is that the dice you want to roll on your wedding day? Like, I don't think I would want to. So, but you could also get somebody great too. But
Yeah.
You're taking that risk.
You're taking that risk.
Yeah.
So you know who you're getting. You're working with them on the timeline. You have a relationship with this person. They feel like your friend on the wedding. You know, you don't want to be with a total stranger on your wedding
Yeah,
day.
and
Yeah.
in the Facebook groups that clients don't see because it's only industry people, there are so many volume video people that post 1-2 weeks, maybe a month in advance that say, hey, I need a videographer for this date in this location. And that's just, I see that, I'm like, man, if I was getting married, I would not want to not know who is filming my wedding.
Yeah.
Because there's no personability.
I mean, we
behind
just
it.
talked about how big of a deal it is, and to not know who's showing up to take it, like, you don't know how serious they're taking it.
Yeah.
They don't know if they know how to be intentional or how to look out for the moments that are going to be anticipated and that sort of thing. You just don't know. So I feel like it's a huge trust factor. And any person or any client hiring a videographer, I think should know and feel like they're going to be taken care of.
Yeah.
Right, and on the other side of it, like the cost of entry for media in general has gotten so accessible. It's amazing, which means that people are able to be excellent at photography, excellent at videography, so much quicker and
Yeah.
cheaper.
At an entry level.
So realistically, anybody can create a good film.
Right.
But when it comes down to it, the client isn't going to tell their friends to book you or tell other family members to book you because of a great video or great photos. It's going to be how they felt.
Yeah.
How you made them feel, what the experience was, what she was saying was, that's the important part. That's what's going to get you more bookings from those clients.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
not an excellent video. That's just icing on the cake.
Yeah.
And I think too, being able to work with, jumping into more of a luxury market, being able to work with vendors that have high expectations too, because you're trying to
Yes.
please more than just the couple at that point too.
Yeah, absolutely.
And luxury, the more you get into luxury, like we're just at the beginning of that.
Yeah.
And I mean, there's 7-8 figure weddings at celebrity weddings, and I've heard stories, but there's so much involved in those. But the more you get into that, the more stressful it becomes.
Oh yeah.
It doesn't get easier. The reason people try to raise their prices, it's usually I want to work less and make more. That's fine, but you're going to work way more when you are working.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. People ask us that all the time. They're like, do you like luxury weddings? I'm like, yes, I love them, but it's not for the faint of heart. It's not for everybody.
It's not.
You have to be like on your game, and it's a lot of pressure.
Totally.
So it's not for everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We made that decision when building this place.
Yeah.
Super long story short, the original building that we had designed wasn't making me happy, and I knew what we wanted to sink into the place. And I knew at that point, in order for us to pay the bills on this level of a building, that we need to service a more luxury market.
Yeah.
And being a photographer, I knew what that meant, and I knew taking that on. So
Yeah.
it's definitely a different ballgame.
Yeah.
People are investing a lot of money into their wedding, and I think that comes with, for video and photo specifically, you have way more responsibilities of things you have to capture on the wedding day because
Yeah.
they're spending so much money on all these little details.
Yeah.
So sometimes it's refreshing to do a simple wedding,
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
like a couple that's cute and love,
We just had one of those, and
It was great.
And it was great. I was like, wow, we don't get weddings like this
I
very
know.
often. Because with those more luxury weddings, we are busting ass to capture all the details. There's like maybe like multiple vignettes that we have to capture details for the planner, because we want to please the planner.
Yep.
We want to make sure that we're capturing all the emotional stuff, and also like wearing a lot of hats during the day,
And
making
hiring
sure.
third and fourth videographers and photographers, because we're like, we need to be able to capture everything. So
Yeah, making sure parents are happy, and then of course the client the whole time.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So in a nutshell, what would you say somebody who is a photographer, videographer looking to jump kind of from the simple weddings that are beautiful and sweet into the luxury market? Like, how do you get your name out there and make that jump, because you're filming things and producing things that don't necessarily look luxury. So how do you make people understand that you are capable of doing that?
I would say first, networking is really important. Putting yourself out there and just be willing to learn and hear what others have to say. Also, getting your work critiqued, I think, can be super valuable. Super scary,
Yeah, I was gonna say that.
but super valuable. And when I say that, you need to make sure you're picking the right person too, like someone who you admire, who you know is in a place where you want to be, that can help you accelerate that.
And I had another thought, but before I get to that, to add that onto that, I like to say always have like 5 people in your circle that are where you want to be and beyond, and connect with them, learn from them, pitch things off of them, work for them.
Yeah.
The second thing I was going to say that would help get there outside of networking is attention to detail.
Yep.
You have to know every tiny detail of what they're paying for, what it's going to look like, how to capture it properly.
Yeah.
And the moments like you need to know that grandma for this wedding is going to cry at this moment because something happened, and you know that history, or you know that dad is sick, so we need to focus on dad and capturing dad. And I know there's a lot of fly on the wall videographers and photographers, but do they know that? Do they capture that? Are they paying attention to all those other intricacies outside of just the couple?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's anticipation. It's like
Yeah.
half the job is
Yes.
being able to really know when those things are going to happen.
Yeah.
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 Sure. And then, also just, making that jump, make sure that you're, pleasing everyone across the board. If there's going to be a planner, maybe give them some like content of behind the scenes without being asked.
Yeah.
Always looking for ways to just help others along the way, I think is super valuable as well.
Yeah, it's funny to be on this side of things, because if
Yeah.
those of you who don't know, I am a photographer and I used to do a ton of weddings. That's kind of how I started, but
Yeah.
I've since kind of retired from weddings and I focus on families. But I think like being able to get the vendors the images, and now I understand how valuable that is. That's something I didn't do very well before.
Yeah.
And also it was a little different because now Instagram and everything is
Yeah.
blown up and you need it the next day. But I think providing that stuff quickly and not waiting like 6 months to give
Yes.
Anything.
like those days are gone.
Yeah. Instant gratification is a thing.
Yeah. I mean, it's part of the job.
Yeah.
And people who say, oh, well, I'm not hired to do that. What do you say to that?
I say that I'll name drop Larev Films, probably one of the top videography companies in the world for weddings. 100% of their weddings, when they're able to and they haven't licensed it to People magazine or something, which that still applies because they still have to do this, they're up all night editing to release something the very next day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And even with People magazine or whoever buys the rights, they have to send that out immediately so they can put it out the next day.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
it's
So-
not just about like, putting it on Instagram for the show. It's also part of the client experience.
Exactly.
And if-
Because you wake up from your wedding day and you guys remember the feeling.
Yeah.
It's like your gut punch.
You
like,
want to
Yeah.
see it.
yeah, you're so sad it's over. You
You
spent all
worked
this money.
so hard to get to that moment.
Yeah.
And you wake up the next day and you're like, oh shit, it's done.
Yeah.
Like,
So I do think it is part of the overall client experience as
Yeah.
well.
So if
Yeah.
you want to get there, do what they're doing.
Yeah.
And that's what they're doing.
Yeah.
Even if it means you might not be getting paid for it right off the bat.
Yep.
yeah.
Still do the things that the high-end planners and videographers, photographers are doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And as far as like the whole, I'm not getting paid for that, or that's not my job, that language
mindset
is not
is-
in our vocabulary. Everything is our job. If mom needs a tissue and I'm taking a photo, I'm going to be like, hey, 1 second, let me go get mom a tissue.
Yeah.
We wear a lot of hats on the wedding day.
If there's
And
a
that's
tornado
just,
sirens going off and people need to get downstairs, you help the team set
Yeah.
waters
Yeah.
on
You're a
tables so
team
that they can
player.
get
Yeah.
downstairs.
yeah.
Well, and I don't know about you guys because I'm not familiar with your exact prices, but like to pivot to the venue side, like that is also why we're priced where we are because we want to deliver that level of service and we know the time it takes to do that.
Yeah.
So that's what you're paying for when you're
Right.
working with us.
Right.
And that's part of like what, differentiates maybe a cheaper
Yeah.
videographer.
Yeah.
You know?
You get what you pay
Absolutely.
for.
Exactly.
100% in this industry.
Yes.
Yep. Well, last to wrap it up, I know you guys have had a few weddings here at Westwind Hills.
Yeah.
So what is kind of like your favorite thing to shoot here, or your favorite part about the venue as it relates to photo video?
Well, I have something like really unique that I think that I noticed a couple of times. Maybe I'm wrong, but you guys cut your grass in a very specific pattern.
Yeah.
That like matches the windows.
We're a little crazy.
I think
Didn't catch it until the drone was up. I'm like, wait a minute.
I am like just so impressed with the attention to detail that you guys have. And it speaks volumes. I was up in the bridal suite one day and I was just like, oh my God, the grass matches the window. I was like, that's insane. That's
Nice
like,
lines.
That's like very random.
We have an amazing
but it's one of
company.
those things you don't think about. And if the venue is thinking about that, imagine all the other things that they're also thinking about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So obviously, like with our style of videography drone, we are very like drone heavy.
Mm-hmm.
So when we put the drone up, we want to get like the best shots. And
Yeah.
That's what I like about it, is it's not really a bad place
no.
to film, to
No,
shoot.
no, it's good light everywhere, which is just a dream.
There's a loft to put lighting.
Yeah, yeah.
That's
I
a
mean,
little detail,
I
but
do
that's
No,
still-
like.
yeah.
I will say the loft. Is that what you call it?
Up in the bridal suite?
Yeah.
Is that what you're talking about? Yeah, the balcony.
The balcony.
Yeah.
Thank
Yeah.
you. I love that detail.
Yeah.
You're able to capture above head shots of the tables, a different view for ceremony. So it just is. You're able to add a lot of variety into
I'm
the
glad
gallery.
you're saying this because Robbie and I fought over that thing. Because it was a lot of money to have just like a tiny little. He's like, I don't understand. Like, you know,
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
typical guy who's not in the wedding industry. He's like, I don't understand. Like, what do we need this little thing? We can't sit people up here.
Yeah.
You know, we're not ever going to put a table up here. What's the
But
point?
you can sit a quartet up there, and it cleans up the background when
Yes.
the bride's walking
Yes.
down the aisle.
Yes.
Yeah, and I honestly, the main thing for me was it was for the photographer and videographer.
Yeah.
So that was like the whole purpose of that balcony.
Yeah.
So
We love it. I mean, there's not a
I
bad thing
always
about
put
this
lighting
space.
up there
Yeah.
because there's
It's out of the way.
power and it's out of the way.
Yeah.
Yep.
It
Yep.
helps with safety.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
we love having you guys here, and we fully recommend them to anybody looking for a great photo video team. I'm gonna pop up maybe throughout the convo. We'll pop up some of the B-roll footage of everything. Yeah, so you can
Sounds
kind of
good.
If you
see.
need more, let
and-
me know.
yeah. Well, thank you guys so much. We really appreciate it, and
Yeah.
we'll dive into some more details next time.
Awesome. Thanks
Absolutely.
for having us.
Thanks.